Welcome back to the Confidently Balance Your Hormones podcast. This is your guide, Dee Davidson. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Dr. Sharnael. Dr. Sharnael is a naturopathic doctor, quantum scientist. How do you pronounce this? Theologian? Is that correct?
Theologian.
Theologian. We'll find out what that means. An author who blends spirituality and science to empower individuals on their journey to health and wholeness. Her incredible story of overcoming personal health challenges through divine truth, love, and conscious living has inspired thousands. With her unique approach, she's helping reconnect to their intuition, elevate their energy, and transform their lives. I can't wait to dive into this conversation today and learn more about this groundbreaking work. Welcome, Dr. Sharnael.
Hi. So happy to be with you guys today.
So you talk about the science of miracles. Let's just dive right in here. What is the science of miracles that you're teaching us?
Yeah, so I basically had an encounter type situation, and it was dropped in me this crazy download. I know it sounds like really weird. By the way, I am super scientific and very left brain, so it was a lot for me to get that or to even say it out loud. But as a naturopath and just a geek in quantum physics and neuroscience and biology and physiology, and that being, really my background, I've always loved the spiritual side of things, and I've loved, just digging in the deep stuff. But even that was interesting to me. But what came out of it was like all of this information about our technology, about how our physiology works with our biofield, and how the technology of that works with creating. And it does tie into hormones and to our chemistry in our brain and how all that works. And it was, anyway, I put it all in a book. It's called The Science of Miracles. There's a lot of formulas in there. There's activities. There's um pictures. I tried to do what I tried to draw out what I was seeing. I'm not the best artist, and you'll know that with my stick figures. It's hilarious, but I did my best. So yeah.
So when you talk about this method, can you give us like a high view of what it is, what people can expect when they get your book?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. What I was saying a few minutes ago is just basically it talks about your biofield and how the technology of what we have already in us works with consciousness, which is in the field and or in the world, because the world even has its own biofield. If you've heard of the Schumann resonance. So we operate on a 67 megahertz frequency, and the average biofield, bio meaning dual. It has two different function. Well, it has a lot of functions, but it functions both as a radiation and as a magnet. Um, and the average that I've tested is around 4 to 5 feet in radius. Um, and I have tested some people who are quite further out there. Usually, I mean, I think the highest I've ever tested is like 21 feet. Um, and what's interesting is when someone's field is larger, what I've seen is that their conscious scale measures higher. When someone's lower, their field is smaller. And because some people only have like an inch of a biofield. And actually, some people I tested are inverted, meaning they cannot even generate their own frequencies to even perform, like to create their own field, and they actually have to siphon from other people to even feel alive
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah. And they've picked this up in cameras now. We actually have the technology to see it. We've known about this from plants.
Mhm.
um Plants that are next to each other, if one's dying, they will give to the plant and or sometimes take from the plant to make the plant die. It's pretty interesting. But us as people, we're the same thing. We're constantly merging these fields. We're transferring information constantly. We do it with our pets, with our plants, with our people, and we're either taking or giving all the time. It's pretty fascinating.
And how are you measuring it personally? Like when you say you measure it on people?
Well, I have biofeedback and I can see a bit on the actual aura scan, but also I do muscle testing. And so I just test the body and see like where someone's at. And then I use the scale of consciousness that David Hawkins has. I don't know if you're familiar with his scale.
No.
And so with his scale, 1,000 would be the highest, like off the charts. And he found that Jesus actually scored that high if those who are have that following. Um, and then some of the other people that he's tested in the past, I hate to say political figures and some of
Mhm.
the other kind of lower I issue type people actually are in like the 25s or
Wow.
lower. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is in with biofeedback, entities are 25,
Mhm.
meaning parasitical type energies and or things that aren't serving you, things that can attach.
Mhm.
And when I do my biofeedback, I can see if someone has participated in substance abuse of any kind or alcohol because that's like the frequency page for that. It'll be lit up with um cords that need to be cut, with entities there, with dark energies in the field. Like literally when we drink or use any kind of substances to dumb down the feelings, which I know has been super common in the last 4 years, especially
Mhm.
um, all of that's gone up like 300%.
Mhm.
Um, what happens is we bring that consciousness down so low that it's like a key
Mhm.
that now entities have access to. We're literally handing over the house when we
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm. So interesting. A lot of these things I talk about with my clients in different terms. You're super sciencey. This is you're an expert in this. With myself, with the alcohol, that's something that I find all the time. People have such a difficult time understanding that alcohol is bringing your vibe down.
Literally.
Literally is bringing your vibe down and getting to understanding what is it that you're running from, or what's this representing, or what's the coping around the alcohol is so important. So it's great to hear you validate that in what you see on your scans as well. In talking about consciousness, another thing that I tell my clients right from the beginning is that my number one goal, and it truly is for my client to get out of operating like a robot or autopilot. You just day-to-day habits, the thing, the emotions, limiting, all that stuff, right? And get back into their body, get back inside, reconnect. How do I feel when I eat this food? Did I get good sleep? I don't need an Oura ring to tell me that, right? To become more conscious, to become a conscious being, and also to understand that their thoughts do attract what shows up in their physical. Can you speak to that? What role does consciousness play in shaping our physical reality?
Everything is thoughts, everything is language, everything is the main three things are what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, and what you're feeling. There's like a three-part like alignment here that is like super uber really important because to be honest, you could be thinking about something and let's say you're trying to be really positive and you're like, I'm so positive, but your mouth says something the opposite. And or even your mouth could be like saying all the right things and you're like, I'm going to be positive today, everything's great. But your heart could be sad over grief or anger about a betrayal. Or you could have fear of thinking about, even though you're trying to be positive about this, I don't know, bonus for work or a new job opportunity, you could have like a conscious fear from watching your mom or your dad have a job and go out and try something on their own and then they failed. And so what it does in the conscious field is it puts like a two-step forward, one step back kind of thing,
Mhm.
where you get points literally in equations for the positivity, but then you get negative for the feeling, which is the most magnet, by the way. Like these are both magnetic and radiating. This
Mhm.
is like huge magnet. And so what you're feeling is super, super important. And I call it energy like purgatory when people are mismatched,
Mhm.
because usually what people will say to me is that they feel stuck, they feel frozen, that they just can't seem to get like motivated. And usually it's because there is some sort of misalignment with those things that cause that not being able to go completely forward in love, which is the only forward motion. And
Mhm.
when we get that alignment, oh my gosh, the magic happens.
So how would someone start to regain that alignment? Is there a specific modality or modalities? How would someone work to do that?
Well, you nailed it, girl. When you said like being aware of your thoughts, for me, that it was crazy. One day I was driving down the road. I look at scripture like metaphysics, and I remember hearing the scripture that says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And
Hmm.
then I also saw a scripture that said something about, whatever's beautiful, whatever's kind, whatever is lovely, think on those things, right? And when I'm thinking about whatever a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That's interesting because it's true. Whatever you're thinking and whatever you're feeling, you get more of.
Hmm.
Whatever we focus on, we get more of. Whatever we focus on, we make room for because that magnet pulls in. I worked in cardiac rehab, and the surgeons would talk about like how they would see a blue light in surgery, like sometimes with the
Wow.
spark. And I personally didn't witness that, but I had, part of my internship was sitting in on watching surgery.
Hmm.
But when they would say that, and a couple people said it, I was like, that's cool. Like we are truly electric, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So the whole thing is when we're in that thought process, one day I was driving down the road and I was just like, I heard, what are you thinking? And
Hmm.
it kind of caught me off guard because it was like my voice, but not my voice. And then I was
Right.
like, oh, what am I thinking? And, and I remember I was thinking something really dumb, like just nonsense. Like it wasn't good news, think of, but like I said, whatever's beautiful, whatever's good news,
Wasn't
whatever.
serving you in a
Yes. So I
highest.
was like, I quickly tried to stop thinking about it, but then I realized stop thinking about it actually made more energy to it, which isn't serving me either. So then I'm like, replace. That's the thing, is replace it with something else. So I replaced it with this mantra, God is the only power and presence acting here. And or thinking about what I was going to do for the day or something, just instantly trying to replace it or choosing to replace it. A little bit later that night, again, I heard that voice. What are you thinking? Do you know, I was still thinking about that stupid girl that, had done something to me and, didn't show up and like argued, I was still ruminating on that. And I was like, stop. And so then that night, I'm like flipping through the channels and all of a sudden I hear, what are you thinking? Caught myself again. And there I was sitting there. And this time I was actually thinking about Sandra Bullock and Jesse James going through a divorce. What? Like,
Like, why do I care?
yeah. And I mean, shows you how long ago this was, but I was literally like, and then I heard, is this good news? I was like, dude, what the heck? Whose voice is this? And also, okay, I will replace it. So I just started like catching myself, and I got this picture of me being on top of this hill
Hmm.
and my car being on top of the hill with me. And I don't know if you're old enough to drive a stick, but I used to
Oh,
drive a.
yes, that's what I learned on.
Yes. So I'm in front of my car and I see my car coming down this hill, like about an inch. Like the car came out of, went into neutral and someone like gently pushed it and I was able to stop it on top of the hill, like instantly. And I told the person, hey, put the brakes on. Um, Another scenario I saw where it was me in the middle of the hill and or at the bottom of the hill and someone let the Jeep go down the hill. Dude,
Hmm.
I got ran over,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Because the momentum was like, you
Oh,
can't stop a
comes right,
car.
right.
That's how our thoughts are. It's like if we can catch it before it like right when it's creeping out, if we can replace it quickly instead of waiting until we go on this like 2 hour rumination of all the
Right.
things we imagine. And imagination is really powerful in consciousness because your limbic system cannot tell the difference between what we imagine and what's actually happening.
Uh,
And hormone wise, that's dangerous because
yes.
if we're thinking about fear, we're thinking about all the things that we've made up that could happen or
Yes.
maybe will never happen.
Right.
Your cortisol levels will spike like you're in fight or flight,
That's
and
right.
that changes everything. We won't lose weight, we're going to gray our hair, we wrinkle, all these things, your immunity suppresses, like everything happens because of this imagination that is completely out there that's not even serving us in any way.
And that is the hardest piece of information for my clients to accept. I'm telling you, I taught, my demographic is 99.9% women, and when I talk to them about uh, their thoughts and attracting these fears, um, if they could only see how really truly powerful it is. It really is when we talk about that. I hear about, well, it runs in my family, right? Like we just accept genetics.
Yeah, and I got that. Not just genetics, because first of all, epigenetics is real, which you know. I
Right,
mean, you teach this, but also even programs of the subconscious, like negative programs, like the moms or the dads or the grandmas that couldn't make it or didn't make it, and somehow it got etched into our belief system programming. And I'll give you an example. And I don't want to diss my mom, but I'm just saying something was there in the past where if something bad happened, I would call my mom and my mom would go, there's always something. And that was a program, right?
right,
And she didn't mean like there's always something exciting. Yay, everything works out
right,
for you. She meant like Murphy's Law kind of stuff. She was just like, you know what? There we go. What else is going to happen? Everything happens in threes or,
right,
and I love my mom so much, but that was our participation at the time. And I've learned to have to either call someone else and or not call her and or whatever. But anyway, I realized in my thought process of what are you thinking? Like,
right,
oh my gosh, that is a terrible program. Let's replace it. So I was like on this path to figure out and remember what is the best replacement for that. So I wouldn't ruminate on that. And what I came up with, something came on the TV. It was actually Dr. Phil, right? And Dr. Phil on this commercial, he says, the best way to predict the future is to look at your history. And so I thought, oh yeah, that could be good. And then I was like, wait a minute, my history is not so great, Like, wait, maybe that's not the best one. Let's not predict the future that way. So I was like, okay, God, what is the best program to replace this? And I'm on Facebook, like scrolling within 5 minutes, and this meme comes up of Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln said the best way to create the future the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I
mm,
was like,
powerful.
oh, and first of all, if you know any history with him, like he lost a lot of
Oh yeah,
public politician kind of campaigns. And I mean, he just kept going and going. He was like, I'm doing this. Like, I
right,
am not giving up. And he busted the formula. Obviously,
right,
he made president and he did great things. He's one of the best presidents we've ever had in like history. So he obviously got the code. He broke the program and he decided, I'm going to create my own way. I'm not going to do Murphy's Law. I'm going to
right.
do I'm going to create my own life.
That's right. And that's what we talk about on the hormone side and in the functional medicine world is that we don't attach to diagnosis. I don't care if someone told you that you have Hashimoto's or you have infertility or I believe that the body is miraculous and it can heal. And there is that big connection to consciousness and what your thoughts are. So we have to really reprogram and start putting the stuff that we actually want to create into our existence out in the field for sure. I want to get to, I know our time's going to go quickly, but I want to get to some of the amazing things that you offer clients because I know that my listeners is probably going to be new to them. So let's just quickly touch upon some of these things. Tell us about ozone therapy. Let's start there. I know my dentist used ozone therapy, and I love that.
Yeah, ozone therapy is one of my favorite in the clinic. It basically, in a nutshell, oxygen flooding the body, except for it has an extra charge, an extra molecule that literally charges the body from the inside out. So it doesn't heal our entire body. It's not a healing mechanism, but what it does is it detoxes the body and or boosts the body to do what it's meant to do on its own. And that is something that we have to do in person. That's not a remote type thing, but I do have other services that I can do remote because where are you? Are you in like the Northeast?
Massachusetts.
Ma-
Massachusetts.
Yeah, yeah. I do have services that I can do long distance. I do biofeedback. And he,
Yes, and I was amazed at all the information you gave me about biofeedback. So let's take a minute there. Before we go into biofeedback, though, I know that people can order red light devices and things and go to these health centers now. One question that I get, I just want to ask you real quickly is, I know the answer, but for them to hear from someone else, what is the difference between red light therapy and sauna?
well, sauna is more heat and like sweating and detoxing and goes, depending on what kind of sauna. Um, there's dry sauna, there's wet sauna. Red light therapy is literally light, and their light will turn on your cells to do different things. And that's why, there's all these patents on computers and our light bulbs and all these things that aren't our highest. And ozone works really great with red light, by the way, too. And I mentioned it being long distance, but I do have on my website, if you go there, there is a free opportunity to go in for ozone at home because
Okay.
ozone therapy, when I started it, was like $300. Meaning not in my office, but as a patient, I was getting IVs. They're up to like $1,300 now for an IV. You
Wow.
can get your own generator for like $1,500, and you can just do it at your house for all your family, and you don't have to be a doctor to do it at all. I have all the steps on there, and I give a free video and explain how to get it and where to get it, and there's discounts for it. Because I really think that this is something that red light, biofeedback, these are things people should have in their house. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think that this
Have
is something
access to them.
only, yeah, I don't think only doctors should have this. I think that
Right.
all of us should engage in red light therapy, ozone sauna. I have all those things in my house.
Agreed. So let's touch upon the biofeedback. I was fascinated by that. So tell us a little bit about how you do it, distance. What does it tell you?
Yes, so it does long distance, believe it or not. I work on people. I'm working on someone from England and Australia as we speak. And I have patients that come in and want to do it in real life, but most of my people do it long distance, and you can feel it. Like some people don't at all, and I'm always amazed because the first two times that I did it, it literally knocked me out for 14 hours straight. I mean, I just slept so deep. And the third time I did it had the opposite effect because I actually integrated so much in my field that I had tons of energy. I was cleaning everything, I was throwing out everything. I had 23 garbage bags of stuff that I brought to Goodwill that I was just like, because in the past, I didn't have, and I had the motivation and I would look at it and it would drive me nuts, but I was like, just didn't have the energy. And so
Sure.
once it cleared, I was like, oh, I could do this. Like my focus.
Clarity.
Yes, yes. But we look at a lot of reports. We do look at hormones. We look at parasites. We look at fungus. We look at the electronics and how that could be affecting your cells. We look at the psychic report to see if there's maybe entities or other things that are needing to be cleared. We look at skeletal, today's stress. We look at emotions. We look at sensitivities, whether it's environmental or food allergies. There's so many, like I said, there's like 30 different avenues that we look at. And then what we do is we start to customize what frequencies need to be sent to the client based on what is out of alignment. If it's too low, we need to bring it up. If it's too high, usually it's not high enough, but I'm just saying there have been a couple times when things are too high. But we just bring that balance back. And like I said, I was working on a guy in England and his shoulder was really bothering him. And my patient came in, and so he's a friend of mine. So I took him off and put my patient on. He immediately WhatsApped me and said, "Hey, did you just turn it off?" And I was like, wow. So he felt it. I also worked on my own grandmother in the beginning because she had fallen and all this stuff was happening. She's in Montana, I'm in Louisiana. Doctors were doing all this stuff. They couldn't figure out anything. I said, send me a screenshot, send me her voice. I'm going to put her in the software. It came up that she had a UTI and she was extremely dehydrated. So I immediately called the doctor, and I have called many doctors and said, hey, do this test. And
Uh-huh.
then they said, oh, okay. And they do the test and they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, we have the technology. It's just not like mainstream yet. Like
Right.
it's getting more mainstream, but we do this all the time with our direct TV. My direct TV went out and I had to call someone in India. They send a signal and it came back on again.
Right.
Same thing happened with my Jeep. I was driving down the road, satellite went out. I called somewhere in Utah, and you're like, turn it off. Let me send a signal. They're beaming us all the time.
Right.
We're being beamed with Wi-Fi right now in this stream.
Yeah.
So
We can't avoid it.
exactly.
Can't avoid it. So would someone be sending you a voice recording? I heard you say something about voice. Is that what they do for the
They do
biofeedback?
I do a screenshot so I can actually see the field because the camera will pick up what's going on in the biofield. And then we do Evox because Evox will tell what's missing in your own voice. We all have a sound and it
Mhm.
can pick up whatever could be missing and or needing to be added or cleared within your own voice as well. And then we also use we get your birthday and a couple other things just for an AP address, and then that's where we send it to you. And like I said, I was like, I'm very left brained. So when the doctor who got this first had told me about it, I was like, whatever, like you're gonna beam me from another state. And this is, I was just like, sorry, but I'm I'm a very data person, I'm very like sciencey. So when he said that, it just sounded weird to me. But literally, I he did it to me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't know he was going to do it. I came home from lunch. I sat down on my couch for a second and I was about to eat. And I looked at my husband and I was like, I think he's doing it. And he's like, what? And I'm like, all of a sudden, dude, I was gone. Like in my living room, lights on, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kids come home at 3.
Mhm.
Dogs, cats, animals, 5 children in and out, like slept through the whole. I never take naps during the day. Ever, ever, ever. My husband can sleep sitting up like all the time, anywhere. And like for me, it has to be dark, it has to be quiet, all the things, and I slept like a baby. And when I got up, I grabbed my phone and went to text him and I was like gonna say, "Hey, did you do that?" He had texted me at 1:55 and said, "Hey, I'm about to do it." And I was just
You
gone.
felt it. That's amazing. Um, I want to just end with you addressing just the question. I know there's just a lot of skeptics out there, right? People that I say everything's energy. How can you not think that we're energy with all the Wi-Fi and all the things that you're saying, right? For anyone who's skeptical of this stuff, maybe what are some closing words for those people?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate because I was that person. I thought all of this was weird. I've studied frequency for years and neuroscience and electronics and, the body, biology, but and anatomy, but when I think for me being in cardiac rehab and even when the surgeons were telling me that, it was like weird, but also I kind of shelved it. And then years later, when everyone was talking about frequency and we were seeing frequency in like essential oils or crystals, or, there's crystals in all these lasers and all this medical devices that we use, and our phones and our watches and all, even in our aura rings, like all of this is crystals. And it's like, okay, that's frequency. The Tesla is frequency. I'm a big fan of Tesla.
Mhm.
And so I kind of have this like lavender lightning approach where I look at the ancient ways that grandma and grandma did things naturally
Mhm.
without the side effects. But
Mhm.
I also really love the frequency lightning, like technology, geeky stuff. And it is real. Like whether you believe it or not, it's kind of like saying, is there air? Yes. Whether you believe it or not, there's air. We are being beamed right now with the wires and the walls and the floor and the outside and the towers, and it's just, and we are frequency. So I don't know how anyone cannot believe that, but I was one of those people, and now I totally believe that we are frequency.
I love that. So if someone wants to connect or learn about your services, where do they find you? I'll, of course, drop it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, yeah. Just go to Dr. Sharnael. It's DrSharnael.com. I have the biofeedback there. I do soul audits long distance. And if you guys go there, again, you're going to there's 2 free gifts for you right now. You can go in there and hit ozone at home, and it'll give you a free video and all the steps on how to use ozone, what it's all about, how it helps with hormones, weight loss, aging, or anti-aging, I should say, gut health, fungus, mold, I mean, ATP, all of those things, and it'll show you step by step what it is. There's also a free class that I have on there. If you go and just give me your email, it'll automatically send you a teaching about how to clear trauma out of the body because trauma can get stuck in the field. And when death and trauma and grief will stick sometimes, and that can also be another one reason why people feel like they don't have any momentum and they just feel stuck.
Mhm.
Um, Clearing that is big, and you can do that at home really easy. And I show you how in the video.
That's amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Bless you.